I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby here with Ella Hunt, who plays Sue on Dickinson. Ella, when Sue despairs after giving birth, right, and she's in this postpartum funk and she's feeling broken and despairing and exhausted, Emily professes her love to her and she declares, I can't live without you, can't breathe without you,
you, and I can't write without you.
without you. I mean, that's just like that. I think that was the highlight of the whole show. And
Really?
yeah, what did it mean to you to explore that profound bond that Sue and Emily have over these 3 seasons?
Oh, that's a big question. I think as the show went along, it has meant more and more to me. And I think as Hailee and I have built such a beautiful, deep relationship, it has meant more and more to us in our friendship too, to explore this beautiful, ever-evolving dynamic between them. And especially this season, for me, playing Sue, we're really seeing a side of her that we've never seen before, where in the first 2 seasons, she's trying her best to repress all of those feelings, really any feeling at all. This season, all of the feelings are just flowing through her, the good and the bad, and the messy. And I love that about her this season. And so really the joy for me playing her with Hailee is such an extraordinary actress, and she gives so much as Emily, and is so passionate about this relationship between the two of them, that just reacting to Hailee and watching her say those lines as Emily meant so much to me as Ella and as Sue, that it doesn't even feel like acting. I'm literally just watching her and I'm crying.
I know, it's just beautiful writing as usual on the show. It's the reaction shots that the director and editor provide to us from you playing Sue are just so beautiful, and it's because it reminds us that her destiny was to marry Austin, bear their child, and that would pretty much be it. Her love for Emily couldn't be outwardly realized, other than in quiet, private moments between the two of them. So there was always a sadness that emanated from Sue that we came to expect from your performance for Sue. So when she has those glimpses of joy, they really hit. They were very visceral. What did you think about being able to explore the happier, joyous side of Sue, especially in season 3?
I was so grateful to Elena for the gift of season 3, like getting to show that joyful side of Sue more. And yeah, I had such a good time this season. I felt so comfortable in my skin as an actress and in my skin as Sue, that I didn't feel nervous at all about. I felt so clear on what she was going through, and so grateful to have been given those moments to allow her to be in bloom and flourishing and feeling all of the things. And it's very gratifying as an audience member, but it's just as gratifying for me as an actress to get to do that after a few years of playing that heavier darkness and only letting like very minor glimpses of that joy come through.
Yeah.
And also, I think another thing that was really fun for me was getting to play the stranger, kookier side of Sue. Like, we know from the history books that Sue was quite an odd, or certainly idiosyncratic lady. Like that scene in episode 10 where she is reading the letter to Edward from the voice of her newborn baby, that actually happened. She was the sort of person to write and like speak in a baby voice to her father-in-law, and like getting to go into labor with a sausage in my mouth and doing that whole hungry montage. And even just in her dialogue with Emily, even in the heaviest moments, getting to be a little cheeky and a little playful, that was super gratifying to play too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing her progression from Sue. Can often be quite a jealous character, obviously, because she just wants Emily all to herself. When Emily's writing, jealous Sue is awesome. When Emily's writing to the soldier, you know, Sue doesn't like that. But by the end of the series, when the soldier arrives, I love that little moment when Sue's like, mm-hmm, yeah. And I just thought it was just a great progression that she's able to just fully realize that Emily's hers regardless, but Emily also is a legend. I love that.
Yeah, I think it is a season of them trying to find balance as a couple and trying to accept in each other the things they can't change.
Yeah.
And at first, it is so painful for Sue, partially because Emily doesn't tell her straight up that she's writing to Thomas Wentworth Higginson and that she's sent him the same poem that she's sent her. It's hurtful on a number of levels, and it meets Sue at a point where she is feeling erased by her community as the intellectual, thoughtful person that she is. She feels like she's been reduced to like a machine to keep a baby alive. And so it's really painful for her to see Emily writing to Thomas Wentworth Higginson. But I think once she comes to understand that her writing to him doesn't cancel out their relationship and their dynamic, and that they can be both to each other is really beautiful to see and just wonderful. It's a very timeless thing watching a couple grapple with work-life balance and grapple with what it means to be an artist in love with your muse, and watching Emily work out how she can give more than just her artistry to Sue. And I think that they do get to that point by episode 9. But then watching Thomas arrive. Is his name Tom? Yeah, he is a Thomas Wentworth.
Yeah. I can't believe you got all the names exactly right too.
No, I have to hold all three in my head, because if I just refer to him as the first name, I get all like, is that it? Watching him arrive and watching Sue be, as Mrs. Dickinson refers to her, that bitch, like Sue being completely on top of her shit and being the best hostess. It's like it culminates all the sides of Sue.
It's so good. She is that bitch. And that's what I love about her.
It's so satisfying. I feel like I'm saying that word a lot, but it really is.
It's just so satisfying. I remember when I interviewed Elena way back at the beginning of season 1, and I remember clearly because I was so enamored with this show. It was so different. It was so original. And we talked a lot about gender and feminism and women on television. We didn't talk at all about queer culture because at the time, it just didn't really occur to me that was what the show would become. Really? Fast forward to what it has become now. And I know from talking to younger people, how much that angle of the show means to them. It's something that younger people want to see on their televisions. How do you feel about bringing, LGBTQ characters to the fore, and they're interesting and flawed and beautiful and just real? I love that.
I'm like grinning because it makes me smile really hard to feel like we have been a part of bringing queer stories to the forefront. And what I have found so remarkable about Elena's writing as the show has gone on is it's not just that the show has a queer romance at its heart, it's that the show is uncovering all of this delicious queer history too. Like episode, I want to say it's 3 in season 3, where Emily goes and meets Walt Whitman in her head.
Exactly.
And they go to Faf's bar, and it's this like beautiful queer space where Emily feels free for the first time to scream that she loves Sue. Is so I feel so proud to be a part of a show that is showing those spaces and uncovering that history, because it's not that queer stories, that people haven't been living queer lives. It's just we haven't been telling queer stories.
You don't see them.
So yeah, it feels incredible to me. And I think kind of like you, when I first signed on to the show, I don't think I really had processed what telling this story was going to mean to me in my journey. And as it has gone on, watching watching what it has meant to other people on their journeys, and seeing that it has been empowering to people. I know that that's what Elena set out to do in her heart. And I'm so grateful for it. I never expected when we first started the show that it would hold this weight and this beauty in my personal journey. And so, I hold it very dear.
And you know, what's really interesting is if we were talking, say, 10, maybe 15 years ago, that's the dance sequence where Sue is dressed in men's clothing would be so subversive and so alternative. These days, it's just a really awesome, beautifully rendered.
Just really sexy too.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't occur to me at all that it would be subversive. But as I started to research the reactions to it, I realized it wasn't at all. And people so responded to that. Were you expecting that reaction?
I actually was. I was certainly expecting the fans of the show to do little happy dances about getting to see this moment from the two of them, especially because I feel like people had really responded to us in episode 2 of the first season as Lysander, Periwinkle, and Sir Tybalt Butterfly, like getting to sort of bring Tybalt back, but Tybalt being like really hot and like dommy was fun to me. So I had hoped that would excite people, but mostly it was just a treat to me. Like, it wasn't originally written in the script that Sue was going to be in this men's suit, and it wasn't. I don't think it was initially on the table that I would wear my natural hair, which was like in a short pixie cut at the time. And I think I was talking to Jen, our amazing costume designer on the show, about how cool it would be if I could wear my hair natural and like kind of do a nod to contemporary queer culture. And Elena, I think, overheard and was like, so obviously we're doing that now. And I think it probably was one of my favorite days on set ever. And Hailee and I both love to dance. And so it felt really good to do.
I mean, obviously the show is so intentionally anachronistic in its language, tone, music, style. And to me, that captures the spirit of Emily and Sue's rebellious nature. This is a tricky question now, because did you find that contemporary and modern sensibility at all challenging, or did you just pretty much always find it liberating?
Oh yeah, definitely. When we were first working on the show, it was a challenge, and it took a lot of trust and some navigating what the line was between it feeling too much or it feeling. It's not a gimmick to Elena, and it's laced all the way through the show. Every theme, every detail is about holding up this kind of concerning mirror between 2020 and 1860. But yeah, as actors, I think it was hard at first to know what that was going to turn into. But as it went on, and especially this season for me, I just felt really confident in Elena's writing, and 2, in that the things that Sue was going through were so universal and timeless, almost like watching someone step into their identity, watching someone become a mother, like being new to motherhood, all of the emotions that she's going through feel strikingly familiar to our time. The only difference is that because they are in a queer relationship in 1860, they are kind of by necessity in the closet, and that throws some really hard, it's a huge challenge for them, and they have no one around them that they can look to for advice or guidance or inspiration even. So they're kind of pioneers in this relationship together.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to also remember the show's a comedy. I remember when Sue's giving birth, midway through the season, and it's typically beautifully written. It's an opportunity for some really great comedy, as Mrs. Dickinson, Jane Krakowski is a genius in comedy. She slaps Sue, And then she promises to use a lot of farm equipment. And I was roaring. I thought that was so brilliant. And then so you're screaming in excruciating pain. I always wonder with actors, is it one of the highlights to be able to play someone who's about to, give birth? And then you have all this fun with it. But then, of course, only Emily gets to see the baby and plan, and so that only Emily's voice is what the baby hears. Another moment of just complete bond that the two of you have.
Mm-hmm.
Did you appreciate the comedy, the being able, you didn't get to do it that often, but the sing along was another beautiful moment. But you get to do stuff that is a little bit outside what we would normally see Sue do.
I think I sort of mentioned this earlier in our chat, that felt like a real gift to me. I love comedy, and I love being the straight guy in comedy, and that has been sort of the role that Sue has played through the first 2 seasons. But yeah, especially getting to do that with Jane, like the day that we did the birth scene, and we shot a whole labor montage that didn't end up in the piece, but even the stuff that is there is just such a delight. And she does something different every take, so you're constantly on your toes. For me, I have to like keep myself from laughing because she's so funny. And that scene with Emily where Emily is kind of the only one to see the baby as a newborn was such a beautiful day of shooting. Elena this season wrote some scenes that felt like plays. They were really long and sprawling, and so much space to breathe and not have the answers and to just see what came up. And I think Hailee and I knew each other so well as our characters and as people while shooting those scenes that we were really able to explore and be open with the material. I love that. I think that day was another of my favorite days on set. And I think also coming out of, we were shooting in the middle of the pandemic, and I just had all of this like excess emotion that felt relevant to Sue as a new mother. Like it felt like I brought a lot of myself into Sue this season, which was a real joy.
So final question, because I think a lot of people over the years will revisit Dickinson. It's streaming. You can find it whenever you're on Apple TV Plus. You're also a vocalist, recording artist, you're moving on to new projects. Dickinson was a while ago now. Given that Emily Dickinson is such a trailblazer for artistic expression, and thinking about her story and your work as Sue, do you think it's inspired you as an artist for when you move forward?
What I have loved about diving into this material, and that I don't expect to work on a story like this again, because I actually think it's very unusual to deal with material that deals so head on with the experience of being an artist and the courageousness it takes to look unflinchingly at the world. I think that especially Emily's arc this season, like trying to work out how she can keep hope alive through her art and for the people that she loves, is such a noble quest, and forced all of us who were involved in the show to ask those questions of ourselves as artists. And yeah, I very much carry the spirit of Emily with me through everything I do, and see Dickinson's life and work as a sort of foundation point to every different avenue that I go to now.
That's so awesome. Well, Ella, congratulations on a wonderful season 3. Good luck in all your future endeavors. I look forward to seeing more of you on my TV and film and on my screens.
Thank you so much.